Right, let's take you to our weekly feature, the Politics Wrap, with Natasha Piri, who's standing by. Natasha, very good evening to you. Welcome to the show. Political funding taking center stage.
Definitely, Mpo. Thank you so much. And to our viewers, welcome to another segment of the Politics Wrap. And like Mpo said, indeed, 14 political parties have declared close to 200 million rand in donations for the first quarter of the Political Funding Disclosure Report for the financial year of 2024-25. The report covers the period of the 1st of April to the 30th of June 2024. The Democratic Alliance has received most of the donations at over 56 million rand, followed by the IFP at over 38 million rand and Rise Mzansi at over 33 million rand. The Multi-Party Democracy Fund received one contribution of 25 million rand by Exara Resources Limited, which was dispersed to represented parties at the start of the second quarter in July 2024. Now, to talk to us more on this, we are joined by the IEC's Political Party Funding CEO, Mr. George Mahlangu. Mr. Mahlangu, thank you so much for joining us in the Politics Wrap.
Good evening, Natasha, and your viewers at home.
Thank you. So just correct me if I'm wrong. This is by far the highest value of donations across all quarters, all years since the introduction of the Political Funding Act. Can we attribute this high amount to the fact that there was the Electoral Matters Amendment Act came into law, and because of that, the threshold of 100,000 and the maximum of 15 million was actually done away with?
Yeah, Natasha, let me confirm that this is the highest quarter in terms of donations that were declared. The second highest was the previous quarter, which was the 1st of January to the 31st of March 2024. However, I can't confirm that it is because of a result of the lacuna in the law. All the donations that were declared were within the thresholds of above 100,000 and 15 million. Though there was a lacuna in the law, on the 31st of July, we met with the members of NPLC, and then we requested them to donate, to continue to declare the donations regardless of the lacuna of the law as a result of the passing of the Electoral Matters Amendment Act.
Mr. Mahlangu, I just also want to, maybe just for context, to just also alert our viewers that on the 8th of May, when the Electoral Matters Amendment Act became the law, the annual upper limit of 15 million and, of course, the disclosure threshold of 100,000 were immediately removed, right? And the immediate impact was that parties could take donations of any amount. There was no legal requirement to actually disclose, but we know that there was litigation at the Western Cape High Court. And on the 16th of last month, the High Court in the Western Cape reinstated the donation limit for political parties and independent candidates. Before the Act came into law, was there any consultation with the IEC on this, and what impact did it have on the Political Funding Act? Because remember, the Political Funding Act was brought about to ensure that there's transparency from the donors of the Political Funding Act, and to ensure that there is no capture, or political parties aren't actually captured by these donors.
You are indeed correct, Natasha, that between the 8th of May and the 16th of August, there was a lacuna. So basically, it was a free-for-all kind of a setup where political parties could have received any donations above the threshold. But there was no law that was going to implicate them in an event that the donation was above the threshold. Now, you would know that in our country, we've got active civil society groups. And one of the civil society groups, by the name of My Vote Counts, approached the Western Cape High Court that there is a lacuna in the law. Political parties are not obliged to disclose, the donations above the threshold. And the judgment only came out on the 16th of August. restoring the old, thresholds of between 100,000 and 15 million per annum. So as we speak, we may not know whether there are political parties that have received donations above 100,000 and above 15 million, which were not disclosed to us.
But is this not a cause of concern for the Commission? And, time and time again, I always ask you that, how do you ensure that there's no loophole, in the Political Funding Act where political parties don't declare what they've received?
Look, we are concerned, of course, Natasha, but the Commission is the creator of statute. So we can't operate outside the boundaries of the law that has been put before us. So with its strengths and its weaknesses, we have to operate within such. Mm-hmm. So for the fact that there was a lacuna in the law, there was little that we could do because the law that has been put before the Commission to implement had lacuna in it. And we had to rely, of course, on the external parties like your civil society groups or any other member of the society to bring this matter before court. And fortunately, that has happened through my vote counts.
Mr. Mahlangu, you labeled the signing of the Electoral Matters Amendment Act before the elections as a free-for-all kind of setup. In light of what you said, do you think, from the Commission's point of view, that this was a cynical move to sign it just before the elections?
Look, I can't say that it was a cynical move. The unfortunate part is that the law affects the political parties, and members of the political parties are the ones who are the ones who are supposed to pass the law themselves. So I can't say it was deliberate or not, but it is unfortunate that the very same members of the National Assembly are the members of the political parties that are affected by this law.
Okay, Mr. Mahlangu, I just want to alert you to something that we received today. I don't know if you're aware of it, but Action SA is planning litigation against the IEC. In the statement, the party says they wrote to you specifically seeking an investigation in terms of Section 14 of the Political Funding Act into the ANC settlement of the 102 million rand debt with Ezulwini Investments. The party further says that they've furnished you with complaints against other two political parties for alleged non-compliance with the Political Funding Act. Can you respond to this? And we are told that this press conference will happen tomorrow in the morning, yes.
Look, Section 14.4 of the Act provides that the complaint must be accompanied by the prima facie evidence. And as we speak, the political party concerned wrote to us that we must investigate, and we requested the prima facie evidence. Look, Natasha, you would agree with me that this is a political space whereby one political party may, use the Commission, to gain or to score points against the other. So we can only investigate when the prima facie evidence has been brought to our attention. So you can imagine that we can chase a wild geese, a wild goose, checking or sniffing around whether there was non-compliance here and or there. So until such time that information has been brought to our attention with prima facie evidence and the chief electoral officer to be in the position to say this matter requires further investigation, in the absence of that, it means any other person is going to write to us to say we must investigate without providing us with the evidence. Now, we all read in the newspapers in December that there was out-of-court settlement between the ANC and Ezulwini. But that out-of-court settlement, no one knows what does it entail. And what we said to the party, to the political party, why can't you wait until the 30th of September? So the 30th of September, that's when we are going to receive the audited financial statements, because we do not know what entails the out-of-court settlement. Now, if there's nothing comes out of the out-of-court settlement, the commission will retreat and see whether it takes this matter forward. But in the absence of prima facie evidence, what is it that you are going to investigate?
Okay. Mr. Mahlangu, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much,
Okay.
Natasha.
Of course, that was George Mahlangu, the IEC's political funding CEO. And on to this story, ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula has called for maximum restraint over comments made by SACP General Secretary Solly Mapaila. Mapaila has been critical of the ANC's decision to include the Democratic Alliance in the government of national unity. Relations between the ANC and the SACP has been tense since the GNU agreement. This, I beg your pardon, the SACP views it as a sellout.
Furious, is angry. The ANC is sold out. Hated. They give the people the truth.
The Communist Party is not happy about the political trajectory of the ANC. Mapaila has accused the ANC of having sold out by working with the Democratic Alliance. Mbalula has called on Mapaila not to label the ANC, but to seek to convince the party on his views.
It's not permanent. It can change at some point and become something else. But at the end of the day, we're not locking ourselves into a GNU permanently. That GNU will change over time. And that's what the ANC will be working on.
In an interview on Dr. Sizwe Mpofu-Walsh's podcast, Mapaila has called on history to judge the ANC leaders harshly for their political choices.
It's a gross error. Serious mistake. Our leaders, the political elite, committed this criminality of joining forces with the DA. It's a political choice. I think they will be judged harshly by history, and I call on history to judge them badly for the betrayal of our people. This is a betrayal, Sizwe. It cannot be entertained in any political decorations. It cannot be laced in any other form. It's a sellout of the people's aspiration.
In a political gathering of Nahau, Mapaila also described ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa as leading a dominant neoliberal faction.
In the ANC, particularly this neoliberal faction, was too impatient. They did not want to engage with them. They did not even want to offer them something serious. And yet they went on to offer these reactionary forces, anti-revolutionary forces, colonial forces, so much power. Issue. Then the faction inside the African National Congress was too helpless.
Mbalula has dismissed Mapaila's comments about the ANC president leading the so-called neoliberal faction. Samkelo Masego, SABC News, Johannesburg.
For more on this, we are now joined by the SACP's Central Committee member and the Politburo member, Mr. Alex Mashilo from the SACP. Thank you so much for joining us in studio, Alex. You've heard that package. You heard the General Secretary of the SACP, Mr. Solly Mapaila, speaking to Sizwe Mpofu-Walsh on his podcast. And he had a lot of things to say, that the GNU was actually a political choice. The GNU is a betrayal of the people and a sellout of the political aspirations of the people of South Africa. We've heard the Secretary General of the ANC, Mr. Fikile Mbalula, earlier saying that alliance partners will always differ on issues. Zuko Godlimpi just spoke to Umpo not so long ago and says that alliance partners will have the capacity to rise from the differences that they have and actually find common ground. With that said, where does this leave the SACP and the ANC, your relationship together?
No, I think Zuko summarized it when he said that we will rise above the differences and find one another. That will take a lot of work though, because to give context to what the SACP General Secretary Solly Mapaila has been saying, you will recall that just a few days following the announcement of the results by the IEC, the SACP convened a special political bureau meeting extended to our provincial secretaries and chairpersons. Because here we were faced with a situation where for the first time since our non-racial democratic non-sexist elections in 1994, if I may characterize them in those words, in the sense that for the first time, Africans who were denied to vote in the land here voted for the first time. Women were also voting for the first time, especially Africans. And these were democratic elections. They were not white-only elections. For the first time since that democratic breakthrough, the ANC couldn't reach the minimum of 50% plus one to form a majority government. That was a serious issue, which led to us convening that special political bureau meeting. We did so while the constitution of the party actually allowed the political bureau to meet. But the reason why we extended it is that we were faced with a grave situation that requires extensive consultation. When we consulted with one another, we reached this conclusion that our analysis of the permutations in Parliament were such that it was possible for the ANC to pursue the formation of a minority government with the features of a government of national unity, but excluding the neoliberal expression represented by the DA and the state capture background represented by the MKP. We actually calculated how much could be amassed from the lineup of forces that were there. Just a day afterwards, we had an alliance secretariat meeting. That secretariat meeting was not an extensive consultation. The ANC briefed the alliance partners about what was at that time referred to as exploratory talks. So before you can engage into any serious negotiations, there are these exploratory talks. So we looked at the state of the exploratory talks, and the SACP said, you know what, we are faced with this situation for the first time, and we are on the verge of a counter-revolutionary defeat. We must do everything we can do in our capacity to secure power. But our options arising from our political bureau was that it is possible to pursue this minority government with the futures of a government of national unity, excluding the DA and the MKP. And we gave reasons for that. We didn't stop the ANC from consulting. That was not an extensive consultation. We were hearing about the exploratory talk. Some few days down the line, we had an alliance political council convened or requested by the ANC. Ordinarily, an alliance political council is convened by all alliance partners together, acting through the secretariat. Important decisions were made there because this thing has to be understood properly. The first decision, summarized by the president, was that the alliance partners must be represented in the technical committee that was responsible for drafting the statement of intent.
And were you guys represented? Because listening to Solima Paila, that wasn't the case. And remember, the SACP also wasn't in the negotiations.
I'm coming to the second point. That secondly, we must be represented in the negotiations team. And this was not an invitation to the SACP. It was a matter of an alliance. I will explain why this is important. Unfortunately, we do not have much time. But I must say I was fortunate. I was nominated by the SACP to represent the party in the technical committee. When Mapaila addresses this issue in the most sensitive words that he does use, it is important to understand what happened. I will give you an example. I'm in the technical committee nominated by the party. A meeting was convened at the venue. I was given the contact numbers of the comrades from within the ANC who I had to contact so that we could perform the work together. I'm telling you, I went to the venue, I was alone there. For the whole day, I was alone. Nobody was there. Nobody took their calls. I called Mapaila to say, this is the situation I'm facing. And later I had to leave. The securities told me, no, you have to leave. I left. Tulas Nglesi was nominated to serve in the negotiating team. I'm telling you, the entire process finished without him. So now there are these things that this thing is, the GNU is tactical, it is not permanent. So the reason we wouldn't come with this information publicly if the alliance functioned properly. So we just say these things so that members of the public can understand what happened behind the scenes. So the alliance in order to rise above the differences that are there, in line with the correct way forward presented by Comrade Godlimbi, has to address things like this. Because if you looked at the behavior of Helen Zille during the discussions, there can be no doubt that there was extensive consultation between the ANC and the DA, who are not allies, but no consultation between the ANC and the allies that campaigned for the ANC.
So given that fact, and given the fact that you excluded from these negotiations, we are talking about a situation that's happening right now. GNU government is active. What does the SACP want? And earlier on, if you heard the Secretary General of the ANC, Mr. Mbalula, says the GNU is a tactical intervention, it's not permanent. What does the SACP want? And are you ready to walk out of the alliance as SACP?
Let me say this, the SACP will never argue that a particular political situation is permanent. I'm sure he was not responding to us. I'm sure he was addressing other people. The reason is that according to our philosophy, we use what we call dialectical materialism. It doesn't allow us to refer to a particular situation as permanent. We live in the world where things are continuously changing, and the direction these things take depend on the balance of forces. The ANC is among those organizations that constantly analyze the balance of forces. We have never argued that a particular political situation is permanent. Our argument is that whatever way forward we have, we must work together as allies to arrive at it. If you look at the composition of the GNU, what the DA has and what other organizations have, there can be no doubt there were extensive consultations with them, and in fact there can even be no doubt that they asserted who they want there. Compare that to the briefing sessions that we had in the alliance. At some point, the Secretary General said, no, the DA and the others are not ANC alliance partners. The ANC's alliance partners is the SACP, COSATU, and SANCO. But if you compare between what happened between the ANC and its alliance partners on the one hand, and what the engagements that the ANC had with its political adversary on the other hand, the DA, you may reach a different conclusion. Allies must
Alex,
show trust in one another.
Because for the sake of time, I'm so sorry. So sorry to cut you in. When will you be meeting the ANC?
By the way, we held a meeting today.
And the outcomes quickly in 30 seconds.
No, that was a different meeting.
Okay.
It was a committee chaired by the ANC.
So nothing about
No,
these
it was
remarks.
a committee chaired by the ANC. So I have not received the outcome, but I hope that a true spirit of alliance work prevailed there, contrary to what Mapaila rightfully condemns.
Well, Alex, I wish we had more time to actually talk about this, but of course we will follow up this issue. A lot of interesting things that Alex Mashilo had to say. They're the Politburo and SACP Central Committee members saying that the SACP was not involved in the GNU talks or negotiations. With that said, Mpho will be back with you after the break.